Are you thinking of buying a used car and doing the inspection yourself? Well, then don't forget to bring one of these paint thickness gauges with you. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on the Simple Car Guy channel. Today we are checking out this VDIAGTOOL VC300 car paint tester. I'll talk about what it does, who needs it, and I'll show you how to use it. Alright, so let's see what comes in the box and talk about its functionality. Here, of course, is the box, and it clearly tells you what it is. It's a car paint thickness gauge, has a highly sensitive probe, great. And this is the VC300 version of the VDIAGTOOL brand car paint thickness gauge. Here on the side we can see what it can do, or what it has, I guess. So it has the HD screen, that's awesome. It can do ferrous and non-ferrous metals, voice broadcast, so it'll announce what you're seeing. It can calibrate itself, and it has a power saving feature. Let's open it up and see what the device looks like itself. And here it is. It is pretty small, so as you can see, it can easily fit in one hand. Let's take off the protective film from the screen. Looks good. Here in the bottom, we have the probe itself. Here's the port for charging. This is, of course, hard plastic. This is slightly softer plastic, but still feels very nice in your hand. We have the manual, and actually, it describes its functionality perfectly. And it even has some parameters or specifications here, so you can see the measurement range, you can see the resolution or how precise it is at measuring, and of course the working voltage. So this does have a built-in battery, which is awesome. All right, let's put that to the side. And what else we got in here? We have the charging cable, micro USB, and we even have plates and everything else for calibrating, for very, very precise calibration. But it does calibrate itself on its own without even using these. Probably just not as accurate. Anyway, let's turn it on and see how it works, or what we can find in here. So it takes just a second for it to turn on, very quick. So you're never going to be waiting for, for it to boot up or anything like that. Here in the main screen, there are a few items to pay attention to. You have, of course, the numbers. They're going to be displaying the actual thickness of the paint. I've enabled both measurements, microns and mils. I just like it. I feel like it's more accurate that way, or at least it gets more granular when measuring. And of course, here it tells you the primary unit, so it's going to be the microns. It will show you also the difference between the different measurements, max and minimum measurement, and of course, the highest it can measure to is 1500 microns, which is, if you see paint like that, it's something's gone wrong. And of course, you see the low measurement, which is 0, so it can go from 0 to 1500 according to this display. Now, the mode is either single or continuous, so it can either do one measurement, or it can continue to measure them as you're moving the device around, which is useful if you're doing a panel or a few panels at the same time. But let's go quickly into the menu and see what it offers here. So here in the measure menu, we can switch between singular or continuous, as you can see right there. And we can switch the units between microns and mils. I like microns, like I said, it's more precise. Of course, we can go to cal, and this is going to do the calibration for you. So base calibration or zero calibration, using those items right there. Memory, so you can go back into the memory and see the data that you have done before. If you were to save it, I haven't saved mine. And view, you can turn on or remove different items from the main screen. So if you don't want the statistics or the last value or the trend or anything like that, you can remove those. And in the settings, you can change the language, so Chinese or English. You can also select different auto shut off times, so you can go from 2 minutes to half an hour or something like that. And most importantly, you can turn off the voice prompt. So if you're working in a busy shop, you may not want that, but I'm gonna keep them on. I kind of like it that it tells me what it is as I'm doing stuff. A few other items, but nothing as important. So obviously, looking at this device, we can tell that it measures paint thickness, but more importantly, it can find issues that you may not be able to see with the naked eye. If you have some paint that you're measuring and it goes from really low to really high in the same spot, you know there has been damage. Or if you go from panel to panel and you will see a big difference in the number that you're measuring, then you know that that panel has been most likely painted. So clearly it can find a lot of things for you that you would just not be able to see with a naked eye. And to be clear, this will do ferrous and non-ferrous items. So basically standard metal or aluminum. A lot of cars have aluminum fenders and things like that, but it will not do plastic or carbon fiber body parts. Tools that can do that are much more expensive than this tool. This one in itself is a very good value for what it does. But anyway, let's go back to the car and demonstrate how it works and how it can be useful. Using the device is extremely easy. All you have to do is turn it on and simply press it flat against the paint and wait until the measurement is displayed. Then you can move on to the next test point. Now that we measured a few different spots on the trunk of my car, we can press down and we go from this main menu to another menu that shows us all the measurements. And then if we press down one more time, we can actually see the little graph of it, and it shows us kind of what consistency the paint is. Of course, I'm just showing you a small section here because it's easier to demonstrate, but you can do that across the entire car. So as an example, you can go from here all the way to the front and see what those measurements are going to be. You can start here. So as you can see on my car, all the measurements are consistent, which shows no paintwork has been done outside of the factory. If the measurements, for example, went from 80 microns to 180 microns, we'd know that the panel has had some work done. As an example, I used the gauge on my cafe racer, and here's what it measured. Big difference, as you can see. Alright, so I turned off the audio prompts off so we can talk about who actually would need this. And honestly, the first person I can think of is actually somebody who's buying a used car. This will give you a warning if there are any issues or inconsistencies. So if you measure two different panels and one panel gives you a result of 83 microns, and then you go to a different panel and it's 120, there's some kind of issue. It was either repainted or repaired, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that tells you that you can negotiate the price, or you may just decide not to buy that car and go for something that's original. That's definitely one of the reasons you'd want one of these devices. And they're cheap enough to where you can actually use that as kind of your Carfax or your insurance to make sure you're buying what you think you're buying. And of course, the second reason, or the second person who would absolutely need this, is if you are a detailer or you like to detail your own cars or work on older cars in general. You don't want to burn through the paint, so if you see low numbers, you just may not want to go as hard on that section or on that car in general, or just use a different approach. So as you can see, there's a lot of uses for this device, and it's very consistent, which is pretty sweet. So if you go to the same spot multiple times in a row, of course I'm moving just a couple millimeters here and back, but as you can see, 4 times in a row, we are within 1 or 2 micrometers, which is very consistent for a device that's definitely sub $100. So in conclusion, I really like this device, and I think it's a great paint thickness gauge. You can see how bright the device is. I'm outside right now, there's glare and everything else normally, but on this device I can see it pretty much at any angle, even at a very steep angle like this. So it looks like it has a good IPS or something equivalent panel, which is awesome, especially when you're trying to see in weird angles. So that works really well. Of course, I also like that it has a built-in lithium battery, so that will last a few hours of doing this. You basically don't have to buy a battery for this ever. It will also allow you to rotate the screen. So if you're doing it sideways or upside down or whatever, you can rotate the screen by just holding the button up. And I've definitely seen these devices that, you can connect to your phone and do stuff like that. But why would you ever want to do that? I'm not really sure. I like that, this is all kind of complete and independent, and it will just do the job on its own. It's also less expensive than other units I've seen, with similar features. If you have any questions, leave those down below. I would love to hear what you think of this little device. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.